So if you guys are watching this video, that means you have successfully passed your undergrad and you are now into your honors or your postgraduate diploma in accounting. So firstly, I would like to say a big congratulations to all of you for making it this far. It's not an easy thing to get through undergrad, and so I hope you guys are looking forward to this year. I know that you guys can get through this honors year because you have made it through the 3 years of undergrad, and so I don't see why you won't be able to make it through this year also. Now, this year is a bit more challenging, but with a few things that I'm going to talk to you guys about in this video, I hope that this will help you guys and allow for you guys to hit the ground running this year. So what I'll be talking about in this video today will be a few things on each modules for tax, FNAC, MANAC, and auditing. I'll show you quickly my flagging and how I flag my books. I'll also show you guys through the exam technique that I use, which helped me do very good this year, as well as showing you guys my daily routine and sticking to this routine. I'm sure this will help you guys because this is what I did most days of the week, and it turns out that you are allowed to take some break days, but not too many break days. As well as I will be showing you guys some guaranteed marks, which I think you guys should just learn, and these often come up in exams. Usually students overlook these marks, whereas these are the easy marks. I think what I'll say under the guaranteed marks section will definitely help you guys raise your marks a little bit at least. So a few things on each module. Firstly, overall, I just want to say that you guys have your Saturday tests and you have your exams and all of those tests. And I just want to let you know that firstly, the Saturday tests will probably be the hardest tests that you guys will be writing. And there's no need to worry about them. You mustn't stress about it because Saturday tests count the least, as well as are only there to help you get ready for the exams, because you'll see by the July and the end of year papers, you'll look at your Saturday tests and you'll feel like you only have half a year's worth of work to do instead of having to do the whole year's worth of work. And it also helps you get ready to study and helps you get in that studying environment, and therefore studying kind of feels like it's easier once you do it so often. Also, so I'm going to be recording this video over the next few weeks just because I want to make sure if I think of anything important or relevant for you guys in the next few weeks, then I'll quickly shoot it into this video and therefore let you guys see what I was thinking in a few weeks time. Anything that I think would benefit you guys or something that's worth your while. So yeah, if I do end up changing angles or changing clothes by accident, I'm sorry for that, but I'll just be giving you guys a bit of extra information that I thought of while editing this video. So guys, for FNAC, something that you must just always know is that they love to ask group questions, and I think if I remember correctly, there are 15 different types of change in ownership and associates types of questions that they can ask. So for MANAC, it's split between the MDC section, which is mainly your costing and all of those variable and absorption costing systems. And also it's split into your financial management section, which is your cost of capital and your source of financing, which is mainly driven by calculations, which I enjoyed the most because I do enjoy the calculations instead of doing all the essays and all that stuff. So I enjoyed that section more. And then there's also the strategy section, which you'll see it ends up actually being in your final year of exam and your July exam, and I think it comes out to about 10 to 20% of your paper will be on strategy. So when you guys do the strategy section in class, make sure that this is where you focus, because there's a lot of things that comes into the strategy, and if you can kind of formulate a thing in your head that allows you to get all of the points across, then you guys will do very well, because then that's basically a guaranteed 10 to 20% in the exams. Next up, for auditing, something you guys must always know is that they love to ask their substantive procedures. And so what you guys should do is, in the memos, they actually have a lot of examples on specific cases for different types of audit procedures. So for example, the audit procedures that you'll do for lessor section of leases or lessee section of leases. There's also deferred tax substantive procedures that you must do. And there's also a whole bunch of examples like for provisions and all of that. So you guys should definitely understand the concepts that they're trying to get across to do the memos, which, to be honest guys, I did use most of the memos to study for auditing, just because I just found that learning through a past paper is actually more beneficial for me for auditing, just because in the past paper they'll show you all of the options and everything that you need to say will be in the memo, and it kind of puts it into little sections for you to learn from. So I found that helped quite a bit. So you guys will see there'll be a big integration between auditing substantive procedures as well as your tax book and your other IFRSs and ISAs. So you'll see that this year you guys will now start auditing different types of things in taxes, like travel allowances, and you'll be auditing different things like impairments for FINAC. So just be ready for a big integration. And so you guys mustn't be afraid to put on your accounting hat or your tax hat when you're doing auditing substantive procedures, just because you'll be getting most of your marks will be coming from knowing what happens in FINAC and tax to get your substantive procedures correct. Also, guys, something that I can't stress enough is that you mustn't be forgetting your general and your analytical procedure substantive procedures, because those will always come up in your test and they hardly ever exclude them. And you'll see that it's actually very beneficial, just because they're guaranteed marks for you guys, and so you can't be throwing those away. Also, with regard to the Companies Act and the King part of auditing, these are also basically guaranteed marks, just because you'll see that absolutely everything is in the book, and there's not one thing that you have to actually kind of make up or kind of interpret. If it's in the book, then it's a correct answer. And so you guys must remember to do the formula that they taught us. So the exam technique you need for the King is that you have to first explain and then you have to apply to the scenario. So what you got to do is you got to say that the King requires that there are 3 directors in the audit committee, and then you explain the scenario. So you got to say the scenario is given and there are only 2 directors in the audit committee, therefore it doesn't really apply with King. And so something that you can actually do just to shorten this whole thing, which I've started doing, so instead of wasting your time having to say both of them in such detail, what I did was I would say there are only 2 people in the audit committee and this does not comply with King, and then you get your mark. So what you have to do is you have to first say what is happening in the scenario, and then you have to say what King required. And basically you can switch the 2 around, obviously it doesn't really make a difference, but you have to say both of them in order to get the 1 mark, which is quite tedious, but to be honest you'll get used to it and it's actually not too big of a burden. And lastly, for tax, there's not much really to tax. I'm sure by now you guys would probably kind of know that it's 60% discussion, 40% calculation, and so you can actually just focus on whichever one you want, whichever you're better at, and try get more marks out of that. But they do love to ask a calculate the taxable income question, so you guys will be having to know the framework and all of that. And so I do suggest that you flag your book in the order of the natural person's framework, just to make your life easier, and that's one less thing to remember. And then it kind of makes sense because then you just go down the list. So I'll show you guys my flagging now, which I did. So I use the right hand column of the book mainly for the normal tax consequences, so calculating your taxable income, and then I use the top of the book for the other specific kinds of taxes, such as donations tax, dividends tax, estate duties, STT, and all of that. So it just kind of separates them from each other. And just know that if they say in a question, discuss all the tax consequences, that's not just normal tax. So you can't just say something about gross income, because there should be something pertaining to either VAT or donations tax or something like that. And so that should help you guys out with that, just so that you can get as many marks as you possibly can. It's kind of motivating to tick something off your list every few days, just when you finish topics. And also when you finish going over a topic, you guys should put in your own little bit of information and write down specific things per topic, just because by the end of the year you do probably over 100 topics. So you guys must just know that the week before your exam you can't go through everything, so you will need to have some kind of little summary which can help you guys out, and you can go over and it'll remind you of each little topic. Okay, cool. So next, I'm just going to show you guys how I flagged all of my books, and if you guys want, you can copy it, because I really do think that it is a very good system, and it just makes life so much easier, because everyone kind of rocks up to exams with their books which are terribly flagged, and it just makes no sense, and so they end up struggling to find specific things in their book when they are in the exam. And so what I've done, the way I've done it, is that it actually allows me to get straight into whatever parts I need in the exam, and I know exactly what's going on, and that kind of helped me with my discussion questions and my auditing questions, because I knew exactly where everything was, and so it just gave me more time to work on things that weren't in the books, because a lot of the things that you're going to be writing on will be actually in your books. So flagging your books and highlighting them specifically, like I'll tell you guys later on in the video, under my exam technique, I use the same technique for my exams that I do for my flagging, so I know exactly what's going on in the paper also. And yeah, so let me just show you guys what the flagging kind of looks like. So guys, this is FNAC, and basically I just made them all visible on the sides here, and then there are the IFRICs at the top over here at the back also, so it kind of separates them. So then if you go check PPE, for example, my first one's always orange, just because, I don't know, I just kind of chose orange as my first one. And then after that, it's always going to be green, because for me, green means recognition, and all of the headings are in orange, just because for me, headings are always orange. So it kind of pops out to you. So recognition, initial costs, subsequent costs, it's like right there in your face. And then definitions in blue. And then I always go over to derecognition, will be in red. So you know that if you see red, that's always going to be your derecognition. And then purple is always disclosure. So that's kind of what it looks like. And then you just know straight away, okay, let me try go to impairments, for example, then all of your impairments are right here, and you can flick straight through them all, and you know exactly where everything is, and it kind of just makes your life a whole bunch easier, just because you got a system in flow now. And yeah, so that's for FNAC, what I did for that. So next up for auditing, this is just the one book that I'm using as an example. So I've got all my ethics stuff here at the front, and then here's all your Companies Act just behind it, and then from here down is your King, and here is your APA. So it's just kind of like, you know exactly where everything is, if that makes sense. And this also works off of its color scheme. So like I did with the previous books, all of them are like clumped together, so you know exactly where everything is, and you know what you're looking for. So that just kind of makes your life easier. And then for King, what I did, which I didn't really like hear anyone else doing of it, which I actually think is so clever. What I did was I highlighted specific things in specific colors. So I did the governing body in dark blue, then I did management in light blue, then I did members in orange, and then I did committees in pink. Just so if you're looking for something, because most of the questions ask and say stuff like the governing body did whatever, and then you're supposed to say the governing body's not supposed to do it, it's supposed to be the committees. And so it just makes your life easier, because you know exactly what kind of color you're looking for. And then I also, at the top, which I think is quite tactical, I put like 3 marks at the top that I keep on forgetting. So I left the top open for anything that I continuously get wrong. So I would keep on forgetting to say that you're allowed a securities register if you're issuing shares, because that's always a mark. The secretary registration also is always a mark, and the company secretary duties
is always a mark, and then these also are all specific marks. So if you guys are getting something wrong consistently that you always see in the memos, just, I would say, chuck a flag at the top so you can see what you keep forgetting, and you will know what you need to put in the exam. Yeah, next up is the tax book, and this is the big one, I guess. So as you can see, it's like each of them, even though it looks like pretty terrible from this angle, you can see that they actually are all separate. So except when it comes to here, these are just specifics like in the same area, which is important. And you can see that they still are in different sections. So it goes gross income, retirement benefits, exemptions, deductions, different types of allowances and all of that stuff, CGT, then contribution to retirement fund, section 18A, and then there's your normal tax table for that. Then your normal tax rebates, your foreign tax rebates, and then underneath that is your tax-free investments, the excess that you put in that you get taxed on at 40%, is just there just because so if you look at the framework, you'll see that these actually have to go in this order, and so it makes sense. And then this red one here is your retirement benefits tax table, then your medical tax, then your provisional taxes, your withholding tax, and then your donations tax that you have to pay at the end. And then from here, this is withholding tax, this is donations tax, this is your estate duties, this is your trusts, and here's your VAT, and this is your TAA. And then at the top are your specifics. So transfer duties act, this is intercompany things, this is your dividends tax and foreign transactions, and interest and all that stuff. So you kind of can tell that this is normal tax, this area, then there's donations tax, then there's estate duties, trusts, and it kind of lets you know that if there's a discussion question, you know what to discuss. So it just makes your life a whole lot easier, as I've said before. So yeah, for example, if you're looking for anything to do with CGT, you know that this area here that you've just grabbed is all CGT. So then you can go flick through all the flags and you know what you're trying to find. And what also actually happened to me in my Stellenbosch exam was I actually so this one at the top here says hybrid debt instruments, and I completely forgot about it, but because it's all in the same section, I then remembered to talk about it because I knew that they were talking about something behind hybrid debt instruments. So I think it's just nice because this actually allows you to know everything per topic that you can talk about.
So my highlighting technique is as follows. Yellow is for anything that is just general and something that I want to take note of. Green is for my formulas or for my dates or for any terms that are values and those kinds of numbers. Red is for anything that is usually auditing and includes things that are negative for the company because they usually ask you risk or material misstatement questions. And so if I find anything that's negative in the scenario, then I'll highlight it in red. Blue is going to be for any kinds of definitions in my acts, or for test environments, blue is for people's names that you hear for the first time because you need to use the names of the people in order to get most marks. Then pink is going to be for any qualitative factors in MANAC usually or for FINAC. And then orange is for anything that I think is absolutely important and should be a header. And so I do all my flagging, all my headers are in orange, and in the tests, all the subheadings are in orange. And also anything that is important that I see in the scenario that I think I need to remember or something that I think I might forget, I highlight it in orange. So that when I've done a question, I can see what's in orange and make sure that I've taken note of that. I think for the Saturday test results, the first Saturday test that we wrote, I think I know very minimal people that actually passed all the modules. And so you guys mustn't be worried about your first marks because they will come as a shock to you. And They usually are there just so you guys can catch a scrick and start worrying about how intense honors is. But honestly, don't worry, because by the end of the year, your results will start to show and you'll end up doing much better than where you were at in the beginning of the year. So for example, for me, my results, the difference between end of year and the beginning of the year, the first Saturday test, was probably around 15% difference. So that's just because of this exam technique that I accumulated throughout the year, as well as getting used to the workload and being ready for those exams, which is what those Saturday tests are there for you to do. Okay guys, so under the exam technique session, we are going to be talking about what you have to do for the exam technique for you guys to get the most marks possible. So first things I want to say is that you guys mustn't think about what the required will be, because you'll get your scenario first, and then once your reading time is over, then you'll get the required. And what lots of people do, which is a big mistake, is starting to think of what the question could be while you're doing your reading time. So what you must do is, when you have your reading time, focus on the information and don't focus on what the required could possibly be, because a lot of the time you guys could actually be wrong, and you could think they're going to ask a deferred tax question here because there's a lot of information pertaining to a deferred tax calculation. But when you see the required, they might not ask you a deferred tax calculation. They could rather ask you a discussion, or they could ask you the recognition for something specific, and that can throw you off a lot if you waste your reading time thinking about one thing and then they ask another thing. It's also not good to limit yourself to what you think they could be asking, because then while you're reading the remainder of the scenario, you guys will end up thinking, okay, this is definitely a deferred tax question, so that's all I'm going to focus on, whereas they might then ask you something regarding a provision and you didn't account for that. So I say you guys should just focus on your exam technique during the reading time, and then when you get the required is when you start worrying about what the question actually is. So the next thing I want to tell you guys is not to waste your reading time. You must use this to your advantage, because lots of people, what they do is they just walk in with the yellow highlighter and they just go highlight their whole page and expect that to be sufficient for reading time, where it really isn't. So what I did this year, which is my exam technique, is I would go in with the same color highlighting technique that I use in my acts that I mentioned earlier on in the video. And what I would do is I would then highlight all the dates and all the values in green, and highlight all the headings in orange, and all the qualitative information in pink, and etc., and just follow the system that I've created, so that when I'm done my reading time and I read the question, then I see, okay, they're asking something on a provision. Then I look at my scenario for the orange, which would have highlighted the provision in orange, and then I will look straight to the dates and the values, which are in green, and it just creates a system that works and flows very nicely. Also, I want to tell you guys just to refrain from doing any long or big calculations during your reading time, because most of the time they might actually not even be asking that in the required, and so you would have just wasted your reading time. So stick to minimum calculations, such as figuring out how many days there are in this tax period left for tax, or figuring out how many days you have to depreciate the item, or figuring out how many months are left, or figuring out small values. And so this is what it looks like before I've done anything to the question and before reading time has started. And this is what it looks like after reading time has started and after I've done my highlighting and exam technique. So you can see that Stock Holdings Limited is in orange because it is the name of the company that we are doing. And I've also done listed in orange because being a listed company is something very important. Then most admired and most innovative fashion house is in pink, because that is something qualitative, where you can say that if something bad has happened in the company, you can say that they haven't been very innovative and they aren't very admired because the employees don't enjoy working there, for example. Then everything that is in Green is going to be the dates or any types of values such as the 40 million ordinary shares or 31 March 2014, or you can see towards the bottom it says 16 Rand per share or 3 executives and 2 executives, etc., etc. So if I'm looking at the actual required, then I will see that it pertains to something specific, and then I will look at the orange. Once you have the required, you can look at it and see what links to your scenario. So if the question is something regarding a share incentive scheme, then you have seen that I have highlighted it in orange, and that's the main heading for me. And so I know exactly where to look and where that little section ends, which is just above Arya Limited's section. And then all of the information is under that section where you can see 1 Jan 2010, approved a decision, still employed, 31 December 2013, 16 Rand per share, specific dates, etc., etc. And this just helps you find what you're looking for and really helps you when you're writing your exam, because now you have actually had an effective reading time. So for the exam technique session, I think you guys should come up with your own kinds of techniques to use for the exams. But I think the system that I just told you guys works very well and worked extremely well for me. And it's because I've had this highlighting system for a while now, and so I'm used to it. So if you guys have a specific highlighting technique that works for you guys, then I suggest that you should do that for you. Now we're going to get on to the routine. So what I would do usually is I would wake up, start lectures at 8, and the lectures would end around 2. And I would sit there doing all the lectures as you have to do. And then from 2 to 5, straight away after finishing lectures, I would go off to my little study spot, which is actually a gem. It's a coffee shop, which is so nice. The desks are massive, the lighting is perfect, there's free Wi-Fi, there's a coffee shop right there. And because it's so unknown, nobody goes there besides you. So I spent most of this year working there just because it was away from everybody. And once you're in this location, you're basically stuck because it's such a good place. Then once I was finished working from 5 to 7, I would then go shopping for food and make my dinner, as well as exercising. So I would either go to the gym, or I would go play some tennis, or I would go for a little run. The main thing is to make sure that you're getting some form of exercise every day, because the routine that you have to keep up with the work is quite intense, and so you need to have a way where you can get your energy going and kind of release all the stuff you've taken in for the day. And so it's very hard to just sit at a desk for most of the day, so getting out and getting some exercise is always a beneficial thing to do. This is why I suggest that you go for a little run or do some form of exercise every single day. Then depending on how the day is going, I will then go from 7 o'clock to maybe 10 o'clock, and I would do some work, because that would kind of break up the studying of the afternoon between going to the Rupert during the day and then studying at home at night. So it kind of makes it a nice way to study, where you're not just studying consistent hours on hours. This kind of breaks it up into 2 different sessions and allows for you to be more productive. Now, the studying from 7 to 10 usually isn't that intense. It's not that needed, but you do need to do it sometimes, just because the work is a lot and you might not be getting through it for the 3 hours that you do in the afternoon. So I would suggest that you see if you can do some work from 7 o'clock, and then maybe from 7 to 8 or 9 or 10 or 11 or 12. It doesn't really matter, because some days you'll be working a lot harder than others, and so you just need to find your balance, and you guys will be perfectly fine using this routine, which I used for most days of the week. Now, also for the routine section, just like the exam technique session, I think you guys should figure out what works for you and try and adapt and change it. But that's what I used for the majority of the year, and I think you guys should start out by trying that and see how it goes. And from there you can see if you do like it, or if you want to change something. Maybe you want to wake up early and do some work. It all depends on the person. So that's just a guideline which I used. So under the guaranteed marks section, this is basically the marks that will always be coming up in your test and the things that come up in your test which you'll always be getting marks for. So these will be things such as always starting off the question by either stating definitions or elaborating on the scenario. So for tax, for example, you're gonna have to say that this person is a natural person and he is a resident, etc., etc. And these are tedious things to say, but these are the things that do get you the marks. As well as for MANAC specifically, you guys are going to have to know the prime rate, the CPI rate, and the repo rate. And this is because they're not going to tell you this in the first test we wrote. We didn't know what the prime interest rate was because they didn't give it to you, but you were assumed to know it. And so you guys are going to have to know what that prime interest rate is, the CPI rate is, and the repo rate. And this will come up in most of your tests. So this is a guaranteed mark, so you guys have to know those different values. And they are constantly changing. And so what you guys should do is you should go to this website called resbank.co.za. That's resbank.co.za. And on the top of this website, they constantly keep you updated with these certain values. And so what I did was before every test, that morning of the test, I would go and check these rates and they would constantly be changing. So that would be the rate at that specific month.
Also, just remember the guaranteed marks will be the general and analytical procedures for auditing. And also, if you get stuck on something in MANAC, you can also state that you are using an assumption in the top right hand corner and you'll get the mark carried forward for this.
So guys, with the information that I gave you now in this video, honestly, I really do think that'll give you guys a whole ton of marks. These are just a few things that I wish I had known at the beginning of this year, which I only learned during and towards the end of the year, which is kind of upsetting because if I knew this at the beginning of the year, I think my marks would have been even higher. And so I think you guys knowing this to start off with the year really is beneficial and it'll help you guys to hit the ground running. So if you guys have any questions, please do ask, and you guys can send an email or whatever whenever you want, asking for help, and I will definitely help you guys. So just let me know what you guys need and I can elaborate on anything for you guys. It is a tough year, but I'm sure you guys are going to do perfectly fine and you mustn't worry about it because everyone is in the same boat as you and you guys will be getting through it. I think the pass rate for honors is around 75 to 80%. So you guys mustn't be worried about it. You guys will definitely get through. And so you just have to believe in yourself and you guys will make it through. So the year does come with its struggles, but I'm sure that you guys will be perfectly fine. There's going to be the ups, there's going to be the downs, but don't worry about it and just stick with your group of friends who also do the degree with you and you guys will be perfectly fine because doing it in a group environment really does help because you don't feel like you're alone and it helps so much. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and I hope it has been beneficial to you guys. So yeah, thank you for watching.